I'm going to do a quick video recap of what we did today. We are going to talk about how to structure our projects. You have to follow my organization in this class. Out of this class, you can do whatever you want, but for assignments, you have to follow the structure. If not, I'm going to make you do it over again. So make sure that you follow the structure. We had 2 students where the structure was confusing. Once they did it, it took 2 minutes to get everything else all ordered and ready to go. So organization is imperative for this class. We're going to have to talk about organization. Then we're going to import all our files into Premiere. I'm currently updating my computer system. And so once I do that, I'll have the updated Premiere. So my Premiere is going to look a little bit different on 2 windows, but the process is the same. And then we're going to sync all of our files together and export an MP3 that is then going to be transcribed. Okay. Great. Sounds good. And I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we are going to go from here. Okay. So I'm working from my hard drive and everything. I'm working from my hard drive. And as you can see, I have a project folder, which everything related to this project is going to go into this project folder. I have all my audio files from my external recorder. I have a documents folder, which is where I will put my transcript and my script and my themes document. Export folder, this is anything that I make in Premiere, I will export to the export folder. That's how I know that it didn't come out of a recording device. It was made by me in Premiere. My Premiere folder is where I will save my Premiere project file. And then my video folder, I have camera 1. And you can see that it just has the naming files, the naming convention of the files that were there that came out of the camera. I didn't rename them, anything funky. And then camera 2, I have different naming, they're just whatever the camera recorded it as. All right. So once I have everything organized, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open Premiere. And this is where the window is going to look slightly different, but it's the same principle. And I'm sorry, I'm currently working on my software update. And once it is, I'll be able to upload it. But I wanted to get this video up and ready to make sure that you had it. Okay, here, I'm going to click new project. Your window is going to look slightly different, but it's still wherever it says untitled, I'm going to name it. And then you have to pick where to save it. So I'm going to go to browse. You are going to have a slightly different format, but you have to pick where it's going to say location. You got to pick where. So I'm going to go to the desktop, my hard drive, and then pick my Premiere folder. And then I'm going to say, okay. Once it opens, it's going to open my editing window. So here's my editing window. Let me make this slightly smaller. Okay. Okay. So now I've got Premiere open and I've got the 4 quadrants and I'm in my editing window. So over here, workspaces, editing. So I've got all my 4 things lifted up. Now I want to import my external audio and my 2 different video cameras. So I'm going to double click in the bottom left-hand quadrant and I'm going to go to my hard drive, my project folder, and then I'm just going to select video and it's going to import both of those video files, right? Okay, so camera 1, it only had 1 file. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to rename it. You don't have to do that. Yours probably is going to have multiple files and it's going to be fine. And then I'm going to either double click and go back to find my audio, or I can go to file, import, if that is easiest. Same idea, go to my audio file and import my audio files. Okay, so I have my video cameras and my audio files. Now I need to make a sequence. And because I like organization, I'm going to go ahead and create a new bin called sequences. This is where everything that I edit is going to be housed here. So I'm going to go to my video, pull this camera 1, and I'm going to click it and drag it onto this right-hand side. And I'm pressing minus so that I can see the whole timeline. It created a sequence. I'm going to call this interview. And I'm going to click it and drag it into my sequences folder. I know that this icon is different. And this is how I know that it's something that I can edit over here on the bottom right. So I have camera 1. Now I'm going to want to put camera 2. And it's helpful right now. It's ordered by frame rate. I really want it to be in order of name because those names are in chronological order. And so I know that the first one's going to be the first one and the last one's going to be the last one. So I'm going to select 1, go to the bottom, hold down Shift, drag it on top. And then I also want my audio file. So I'm going to go over here to my audio and I'm going to pull in my audio file. All right. And right now, as it is, they're not going to be synced. It's going to sound like a bunch of different things. They're going to be off. The audio is going to be weird and strange because the files don't match. So what we want to do is we want to sync those files. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to separate out the files that we want to sync so that they can have space to move to the right or left to be able to get those audio waveforms together at the right time. So these are all individual files, right? So if I just go ahead and move these over, I'm going to make this way bigger so you can kind of see. And then I am just going to use my plus key and I'm just going to cut these really long files. So I'm going to select them and I'm going to do Command K. And I'm going to kind of move all of these things over so that these files have nothing next to them. They're going to be able to move around. And then I will right click, synchronize, and synchronize by audio. So what it's doing is it's looking at the waveforms and finding all of the waveforms on the 3 different files to make them match, and it's syncing them by waveform. Because you started recording your cameras at slightly different moments, you started recording your audio at slightly different moments. This helps to make it all work. Okay, so if I'm gonna use my plus key. If I plus, you can see that they're not all jammed against the wall on the left anymore. But my waveforms actually match. So if I kind of like make these bigger, you can tell that they all match. And now when I listen to it, I'm going to use the spacebar just to listen. All right, we're just going to ask you questions. Sorry. It sounds echoey, but they are synced. Great. So now I need to do the second section. Again, this file is really long and so is this one. So I'm going to select those 2 and I'm going to make a cut kind of close to where my other audio is so that it can be separated. I'm going to do the same thing here because I can tell that like this is going to need to be its own thing, right? So I'm going to sync these, synchronize, and then I'm going to sync all of my separate sections. So give it a second. And it's helpful. Sometimes you have to listen to it because sometimes it's going to be slightly off. And if your waveforms are off and it does not sound synced, let me know and I'll meet with you to help fix it. Or look for, let me do this one more time. Or listen for a word that the person says that is very visual. For example, my. If somebody says my job, right? I know that when we get to the M, what sounds like the M, their face should be making a symbol, my, right? So what I would do is I would just go and I would find my on every individual clip, and then I would match them up based on the cuts. So I make a cut right where the sound is, and then I would just match them up manually. Okay, perfect. And then I have kind of these little extra tails. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to cut these out, move this on top of that, and separate it so that it has space on either side. And then again, I'm going to synchronize it. And then what we want to do is we want to delete those big gaps. If you have one long audio file running underneath it, and sometimes the audio file is running, but the video cameras were not, don't worry about deleting the gaps. But if they're artificial gaps, like how I created just to allow the program space to move things around, you're going to want to ripple delete these big gaps. So I'm just going to click In the middle, press delete, click in the middle, delete, click in the middle, delete. And then I want to make sure that all of my audio is correctly synced. So I'm just going to listen to it. Each section is synced. Great. Perfect. And I think the audio that's going to be the best is going to be the external audio. So I might want to boost that audio slightly if it's really low. So I'm going to go to G and I'll add just the way I make this decision is I'm going to listen to the audio. I soloed only my external audio track, and I can see about where the level is of my audio over here on the right. So I have a little bit of space to boost it. So I'm going to press G and I'm just going to give it maybe 2, boost it up just slightly to make it a little bit clearer. And obviously this example is not great because he's wearing a mask, and so it makes it a little bit hard. But once I feel good, it's all synced. I usually solo the track that's the best audio. And then I'm going to make sure the bottom right quadrant is selected. And I'm going to go to File, Export Media. And again, this window is going to look slightly different because it's been updated. But what you want to make sure is that you want to make sure that your format is an MP3. And then where it has blue font, which yours is going to look slightly different, you're going to go and you're going to make sure that, I might put my name. And then you want to choose your export folder inside your original project folder, because it's going to save to wherever the last person saved it. So save and then export. And I can see down here how many minutes that is. All right. So when I go to my project folder, my export folder, this audio is really special because it shares the time. It is the time code of my sequence. So everything that we create is going to include timestamps of when people said certain things. It's really important to have your transcript match your sequence. That's why we're not just going to transcribe our audio file before syncing it. We want to make sure it's all synced, it's ready to edit. And then once we feel good about that, we'll export the audio and transcribe this audio so that the timestamps match. All right. I'm going to throw this up on Canvas so that you can have it, and we'll go from there.